Because you're the only one that can't hear right
Can you hear us?
There we
now.
go.
There we go. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was about to write, are your speakers on?
That's what we've been checking here. We've been going
Yeah,
through
we
all
were going through the, all right. So I guess by default, you're in charge.
I guess so.
Are Dom and Michael not coming?
That is correct. You're both out of town.
But we have a
Oh,
quorum
yes,
nonetheless.
we do. We have a new, our newest commissioner is here.
So we have quorum.
We do. 3 out of 5.
So just for the record, Elizabeth Hogan,
I'm Tom Olson from the Conservation Commission.
great, thank you. Jim?
Jim Stokes.
Oh, yeah.
Leanne,
I thought
yes.
she had-
Hi, Leanne.
Hello.
So I'm writing down the roll call. Would you mind saying names? I know Elizabeth. Would you mind saying your names one more time? I might have questions about the spelling.
Tom Olson, O-L-S-O-N.
Okay,
Jim Stokes, S-T-E-F-F-E-S.
okay.
I have 7:11 PM as our opening. So the first order of business is the minutes of our last meeting.
Yeah, I read it.
Okay, good. I didn't have any recommendation for changes to the minutes, Mark. Anything?
You want me to make a motion to approve them?
Yes, by all means.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June.
First action will be the second or not.
My second?
Okay. Motion been made and seconded to accept the minutes as presented. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The next item of the agenda is citizens petitions and comments.
Right.
That's, you're gonna talk.
I'm Tom Olson from the Conservation Commission. And one of the things the Conservation Commission has been doing over the last couple of years is working with the town GIS coordinator to develop a automated inventory. Because under the APCs of the town, the Conservation Commission is required to maintain the inventory of the open spaces. And in that inventory, we've now have about over 550 parcels that have been identified in the various conditions for open space as outlined in the current POCD. And with that, we've been taking an analysis within the Conservation Commission. The question is the POCD definitions and comparing those to the state of Connecticut definitions. And we kind of have been leaning more towards the state of Connecticut definitions, which basically puts open space as either protected or preserved. Protected open space would be things that have a deed or an easement attached to them. It specifically says this is, the town's receiving this, 5 acres on Crosswinds Drive as open space because of the subdivision. Okay? The deed actually says that. And so we've gone back and reviewed all those deeds and put those into this database. Okay, and that's working with the GIS folks. Likewise, we've done the same thing. We've come up with over 70 easements, conservation easements, totaling over 200 acres that the town has. That they're really not doing anything with it, but at least we found all this stuff. And that took us to go walk, literally review all the records in the vault at the clerk's office. Okay. And then, and with that, then you have that's the protected portion. Then you have the preserved portion. The preserved portion is really why I'm here, because the preserved portion is basically taking a look at the town parks and rec regulations, because you have maintained an inventory of open spaces and parks and memorials and schools and town grounds and waterfronts. As far as these are the parcels within the town that we're maintaining from a Parks and Rec perspective. And that becomes part of the preserved, and that town listing is what we've been using as far as to do that. So, and the state of Connecticut does the same. So their list of official parks such as Bluff Point, Haley Farm, that type of stuff, we've included all that into the calculation. Because there's two calculations that are currently have goals assigned to us. How much, because the town council is always asking the question of how much is enough open space? And so under the state, they would like to see municipalities have 11%. The state would have 10%. And to give you a total of 21% of your land mass would be in a protected or preserved condition. Then in 2021, there was an executive order of 14,008 that was issued that basically said the goal for 2030 is to have 30% of the United States protected or preserved, okay? Including protected waters, right? And so the Conservation Commission has reviewed that. We took a look, should Groton consider that, and we've adopted that goal of 30%. Right now, if we take a look at our inventory, under the protected and preserved, from our review, we're at 28.9%. We're basically about 300 acres short of the 2030 goal, which is not bad at all, really, okay? That all said, one of the things that we found in here was that looking at the preserve perspective, Parks and Rec regulation was last updated and approved by the town council in 2015. So it's been a few years. Things that are not included are such things as Crystal Lake, the New Montrose property. There's a number of other conditions in here that we found that is kind of lacking, because some of it is not that definitive. There's duplications and that type of stuff. So I took on the effort to because of my familiarity with the database, I've gone off and provided Mark an update from the Conservation Commission's recommendation to the Parks and Rec Commission to update that portion of the Parks and Rec regulation in the inventory. And to go down to details, including the parcel ID, the number, all you're doing is having a name and an acreage. You don't put an address in there and stuff. So we kind of provided that so you know specifically what parcel it is so you can tie it. And we've also updated that in the inventory. But we'd like to see our recommendation from the Conservation Commission here, and we've sent a formal memo to Mark with this. And he's been reviewing it. We're just advocating for him. So as we can stay in sync between the Conservation Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission, that make sure that we've got a good listing of the preserve. And over the next, however long it takes, our recommendation would be in the next revision to your regulation. It should be coming up here shortly. It's been 8 years already. It's been a regular review, normal type of stuff. 7 years is typically good time to be looking at these type of things, to go back and update with our recommendations as far as what specific parcels and categorizations, classifications, details. So I just wanted to explain all that and be the advocate for that. I know it's really Mark's and your responsibilities here with the commission here to put the referral forward to the town manager for an update. And I didn't know if you already have other areas of the regulations that need to be looked at. We're just looking at the only thing we're advocating. And in parallel with that, we are also taking a look from the open space perspective, as far as I'm trying to be a better advocate in the budget process that'll start in September here, to take a look at, is there sufficient funding being given to the Parks and Recs to be maintaining this open space areas? In regard to, doing comparisons to what other organizations do, such as GOSA and Apollonia, what their spend rate is for open space, for trail maintenance, and a lot of type of stuff. They have some good numbers too, and to take so that you have a better basis to be going in and recommending additional staff or additional funds for future resources in the budgetary process. Because one of the things that we've been actively looking at from an open space budget perspective, we actually have a CIP for the last few years here, CIP 8 Bravo, that basically was looking for $25,000 per year for 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 budgets. Out of that that's $125,000 we requested, we got 10,000. Okay, it was so easy relative to get it whacked, and then there was no additional support for restoration from the RTM. So that all said, we're trying. That's another thing that we're being in concert here as far on open space areas, as far as what's being maintained. Open space is being maintained by Parks and Rec. And in parallel, just for your information, the Conservation Commission has been developing a volunteer program. Take a look at the other open spaces, such as the Joel property and some of these open space areas that are not trailed and don't have maintenance, but still need some type of level of stewardship. And likewise, and so we've developed a stewardship plans for 14 general areas within the town that have go take a look at some of the MS4 reviews, taking a look at the stewardship trails, potential for future growth in those areas. But we have been yet to been able to develop a volunteer program. We have the manuals and all the stuff there, but we're kind of struggling as far as finding those volunteers and stuff to go out there. We don't want to take it on ourselves. We're here to put the plans together. And we did have some luck with working with Connecticut college students this past year as far as taking a look at the documents. They felt it was all reasonable and stuff, but they're not a group that's dedicated long-term commitments. So those are the things that are going on where we see parallel work with your commission here, and just wanted to bring all this forward and standing by for your questions.
I think my first question is, where do these schools, the decommissioned schools property fall in? Is that?
All the schools are currently listed as part on the Parks and Rec inventory, so I've left them there.
Okay, so they're neither fish nor fowl right now. They're just kind of static. Is that right?
Well, depends on the school. So Rochester was turned over to us. We're maintaining the base. So other schools listed.
Mark, for some reason, we can't hear anything you're saying.
Business. So the question was about the schools and if they're on this facilities inventory, and they are, but how, depending on the school, the care of that particular property is different depending on the school. So, Thames River Magnet School, I don't think we're doing anything over there. Rochester, we're mowing at least once a week and lining it for sports in spring and the fall. So,
So there are some schools that Park and Rec is responsible for the upkeep of, and others it's not been put toward that.
so like the middle school, we drag the softball field, infield of the softball field during softball season. At the high school, we drag the infield of baseball, and we do some mowing. So, each school is unique in what we're doing. And so I think, this facilities inventory list that is in the current rules and regulations, I'm not sure how some of those things got on the list. And so I think that's one thing that we need to figure out. And we have this Parks and Recreation rules and regulations document, we list the facilities. I think by association, somebody could say, well, that must be the rules and regulations for that particular property. But we actually don't have any say in how the school is used or how some of these others that are listed. So it's a little tricky to, you know, I think we need to look at what really needs to be on this list and what really is not under our control and go from there.
Well, that's one thing I did take off of the list. The only thing I took off was the cemeteries, because those are all private.
There's 13 cemeteries that we maintain.
That you maintain that are
That we do.
privately owned?
Yes,
Oh,
that we
okay.
mow and weed whack on a regular basis.
Even though they're private, they're not town properties.
Yes.
Those are historic ones, Mark, that really.
Yeah, mostly,
Yeah.
yeah, there's no active. So like there's a cemetery by, as you drive into the high school, right-hand side. So that, we do maintain that.
And the only reason I took that off is that it didn't meet the criteria of being town-owned property. That's come.
Yeah.
I didn't include them on.
Yeah, so this facilities inventory is a little tricky because I think we need to figure out what should be on there and what really doesn't.
And that's great. That's part of why we're kind of pushing this a little
Right.
towards you.
Yeah.
To get better clarification as far as what does the town want to include in its open space list per se.
Right.
Right now, these areas, some of the stuff is covered under the managed open space of the town in that categorization that's in the POCD. But as we kind of want to walk away from that artificial, because no other town that we have found in Connecticut, categorizes as open space the way Groton does.
Oh, okay.
And that was a part of an artifact of the contractor that the town hired back in 2015 or 14 to do the POCD that was approved in 2016.
Oh, okay.
And right now, we're in the process of hiring, the next, for the
Right.
2026 version. We have to issue, it has to be updated every 10 years. So
Right.
this year is when they just got the money. The RFP process has started in the planning department over there up on the hill. And so we want to be able to control to some degree what the next version is going to look like from the Conservation Commission side. That's what we're coming with you now to get better clarification so we know how to approach this, because our goal is to get in line with the state. Because
Right.
most of the other towns use the state definition.
And does that, what's the process? I mean,
Well, the process is the protected is all taken care of. All those, if like Sparkle Lake has a conservation easement on it,
right,
it's protected.
right,
Okay, but when it gets to the preserved, this is the best mechanism we have to identify what acreage or what parcels are preserved by the town for its use as a park, which is within the
right.
outline of the state definitions.
So the state has a definition for parks.
Well, it has a definition for preserved open space. It says if it's used as a park or a watershed area, Groton utility watershed areas are considered preserved. So those are the things. So it's the state park system. If it's identified as a state park,
Right.
and out of DEP, they have a list of these are all our state
Yeah,
parks, and that counts as preserved. So, well, for Groton, the only thing we have right now that's approved is your parks and Rec regulation
Yeah.
inventory.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been using. Because
Right.
it's approved by the town council, yada, yada, yada. This is great. It's got acreages on it. We love it from the Conservation Commission. And so we're just saying, this is an opportunity that we should be cleaning it up before we go into the next POCD.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was,
So it's not a crisis today, but we're just saying,
Be
like,
prepared.
Right.
yeah,
yeah,
because there is some issues, just like I talked about cemeteries, we talked about the schools.
right.
Each one of these, each area has its uniquenesses.
Yeah.
So, but
And so like I'm looking, in the current inventory list, it says Stanton Farm is open space, but it's got a playground on it. So I would define that.
Recategorization.
Yeah, I would, and I'm not sure how maybe at the time, it
you're right.
didn't have a playground
That's
on
probably
it when
true.
it was created,
Yeah.
but there is one now.
Right, so it should
And
be.
so
shifted.
I think that needs to be shifted.
Yeah, and there's no problem, this is not locked in, this was just
Yeah.
how we're, from Tom Olson, this is literally my recommendation.
Right.
Nobody argued it for the Conservation Commission, but we submitted it to you for a starting point for this
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, this isn't locked in gold, it's all changeable, everything on the GIS is still in an experiment, is what we call experimental session, it hasn't been released to the general public yet or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's still a work in progress, but we'd like to get this in sync before we go live on everything else on it.
Right. And I did have a question, like Deerfield
Deerfield
is
is
broken up into
like a bunch of
a
parcels.
number of parcels, and some of them have the same address.
Yes,
I guess I was trying to figure out,
by the parcel numbers, that what's unique is the parcel ID.
well, right, and I get that, but when if you look at Deerfield on this list, well, it actually doesn't give you the total acreage on the current list, it's blank. But I'm just wondering, other than their unique parcels, is there any other reason not to kind of put all those together and just say that Deerfield open space is X number of acres?
Well, the only reason we, from the Conservation Commission, wanted to maintain things as under the parcel ID, because that's where we can tell through because all the deeds and easements and all that stuff is tied to parcel ID.
Right.
That's what comes, if you, and that's kind of, if you want to be doing any type of renaming or additional, these names are not locked in here.
Yeah.
Those are all tweakable, because you can say Deerfield, parcel 1, parcel 2, however you want to do, okay, if you want to combine something, that's fine, but we would like to maintain an individual parcel ID, because that's what the whole basis of the total inventory is.
Right.
We want to keep track of all being together. Now, if there's an action, I give you a good example, is good, like Groton Open Space. When they purchased the Sheep Farm South last year, they took those 7 parcels and combined them all into one new one because there was a new deed issue.
Oh, I see.
So that's so to kind of control that, that's, there's a formal document that can show that this parcel, this were now subsumed by this new deed, and it's given a new parcel ID now by the GIS people with the approval of the assessor.
Oh, gotcha.
And that's why this is tracked that way.
Gotcha.
So potentially, all the various bits and pieces of the Deerfield could be.
The
put
problem you're
together.
gonna run into, the assessor's not gonna like, is that they're not abutting.
Oh,
Some, well,
Some will,
Some
some
are,
won't, but some,
some-
yeah. If you wanna go through the mastications of doing this, but I haven't seen the town do very much of this. They have, not to say they don't, they can't,
right.
but it's very rare I've seen where the town has subsumed multiple parcels into a single, because there's, in their viewpoint, there's no taxes on it, there's no, why spend the money for the registration and all that stuff? There's a deal, lawyers have to review it, yada, yada, yada. It doesn't, there's a cost to that with no benefit, relatively speaking, for the town, no benefit.
Right.
Other than convenience.
Yes, yeah.
I have a process question. When the contractor is hired to form the new plan
Yeah.
for conservation, does that person also review these lists of lands?
It depends on, again, the contract is being developed, RFP is being developed by the planning staff, planning and development staff. They will put an RFP out, and they'll probably start from the last one, and, as far as on what they got involved with. As far as what's going to be then, they're not, they'll gladly take inputs right now, because they're anticipating to have it the RFP put together, because it has to be approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. They have the lead on the POCD. the document, if you take a look at today's document, it's 80% planning and 20% conservation, so they have the lead on that. So and we have a joint meeting scheduled for October with conservation and planning for the final review with the RFP and for the next meeting. So what's going to show there, I don't know as of right now. It's all depending on what direction we want to give to the contractor.
But I was thinking, if we have this goal by 2030, to, as an aggregate, 30% set aside as open space, things like this should be the opportunity to identify potential parcels to reach that goal.
Well, I can tell you, like last night or on Monday night, we were there, or Tuesday night, Ghost is already buying almost 100 acres.
Oh, okay.
So, the other the last 200, well, when you get down to the 29% versus 30% by 2030, we're still 7 years away. We feel there's going to be some additional opportunities. We're not that concerned about it, at this point, as far as coming up. And we do already have some recommendations that we are working with the planning department as far as on opportunities. A good example would be like where the data center. That parcel right there is another 100. Okay, those type of opportunities are out there. Something for the town to consider, and that's we haven't given up on the open space acquisition fund. So there's still money being generated, coming up with a strategy for a future way to get that better funded, to be able to support one or two more strategic purchases just to get us to the 30%.
Leanne?
Got a couple questions for you. The Conservation Commission, that's what you're head of or part of?
Part of the Conservation Commission, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I'm with the Conservation Commission, but Larry Dunn is the chairman.
Okay, so this is a committee. It's not a town employee running it.
We have a staff support from Mr. Prescott on the planning department staff. He attends our meetings, runs the video and that type of stuff.
Okay, well, I guess my question was that why I was asking the previous one is you were mentioning hiring somebody. Does your commission have the ability to do that?
No, what in my prior statements there was that we would be if the Parks and Rec budget that's submitted it causes an increase for additional hiring to support things such as better support for the open space and parks and stuff, that the Conservation Commission would be advocating to support that in addition to your commission here.
Okay, and your calculations, are those townwide everywhere's in Groton?
Yes, that includes the entire 20,377 acres of land area within the town of Groton. So that includes stuff that's owned by the city, by the state, and by private organizations such as Groton Open Space and Apollonia.
Okay. Just to kind of throw it in, I think it kind of goes with this, but I was recently in another town where I had an opportunity to meet with a rec director, and we were talking. And they were going through something like this a while back, and they found that the best way to approach it was to take the Parks and Rec out of it. Let the Parks and Rec take care of the recreation part of it. Have a Parks department that took care of the upkeep, and then, your other departments. And I really think that's something that I have not talked to Mark about it, so I wouldn't want to go any further than to say I was talking with someone and they said it was really successful, because then each party could put more time into what they were really supposed to be doing. But it's kind of interesting. The other question I have is every subdivision has open space. Did you calculate those in?
Most certainly, all that open spaces belongs to it's either been assigned to the town of Groton or the city of Groton. All those are documented. I've reviewed all those individual deeds, and they're all included in the inventory. Now, as far as your comment about parks versus who's taking care of it, in the managed portion of the open space in the current POCD, you end up, there's areas that are maintained by Parks and Rec, there's open space maintained by Public Works, and there's open space maintained by the Board of Education. I won't argue that, as far as on who's doing it, but there's a lot of open space that nobody is maintaining right now. And that's where, from a Conservation Commission, because we have no official staff and budget and all that type of stuff, all we can do is make recommendations to the town manager. A good example of this was we made recommendations on the purchase of the most recent Wolfbrook property here. And the town manager then made an assignment to Parks and Rec for that property. So, and that's what we're just trying to make sure that we have a good inventory as we're required to have. And now work principally here through this, at least this designation of these are the park areas, similar to what you're referring to. It says this is the list that we're maintaining as parks, and we're putting the dollars into these specific ones. And we've been considering those as the preserved areas for open space calculations.
Well, I just would suggest as you go forward with this, it sounds like a very ambitious thing, and I'm happy that you're doing it, but I think we also ought to look at who really should be doing the maintenance of it. So I hope you'll have some discussion about that as well.
Yeah.
Not with the Parks Department, but with your committee. No, that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Go ahead. One of the things, questions, what should be on this? What does this list? I think that's, the Green Magnet School, we have absolutely nothing to do with that. But is this a list of, and that's identified as a school or open space? Trying to figure out.
Would it be possible for, are you looking at a document that lists all the open space areas?
Yes, it did not go out in the, it didn't go out in the agenda.
Okay.
I brought a copy just because I saw Tom earlier this week.
Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday, was it? Okay, Tuesday, and he said he was coming to the meeting, so I printed off and knowing what he was going to talk about. But I can certainly share this with everybody.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I would like to see it if you don't mind sharing it.
Yeah, no, not at all.
That would be helpful.
Okay.
Are there any more questions for Tom while he's here? Thank you very much.
After I read the list. Tom, we appreciate you sharing it with us. It's very,
No problem.
very informative.
I'll let you guys get back to work. Take care.
Thank you. Are there any other citizen petitions or comments? Okay, we'll move on. Do we have any town council referrals more?
No.
Any correspondence or communications to share? We had Mike DeFranco's email in which he listed a couple of things. I guess.
Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so Mike had asked about a report. Every 2 years, we do a playground safety audit. So we bring in HD Seeger, who is an insurance company that the town works with. On their staff, they have a certified playground inspector, and we bring them in every 2 years to do a complete audit of all of the playgrounds in town. And Mike wanted to see a copy of that because it was referenced in another document that Elizabeth had been working for agency accreditation.
And I think the other thing that Mike put in his email was that the weeds and chips situation at Deerfield has been
Yes,
fixed,
they-
and that's
all the
great.
chips were removed and new ones were put in.
Perfect. All right, then I think, anyone else, I shouldn't jump ahead.
If I could share one thing with you, as a citizen, when I've been going down to Par 4, they've been driving me crazy now that you've done the bunkers. They want to know when the bathrooms are going to be done.
They just wrapped up the asbestos abatement project. You might have seen work taking place earlier this summer. They excavated some of the soil that was found to have asbestos in it. And they also closed off that, or encapsulated the area underneath the restaurant, so that the asbestos issue has been addressed, and they're going, I think they're working on finalizing the bid documents, and then going to be putting out that RFP. And work, I suspect, would take place later this fall, the renovations to the bathroom.
Okay, and the only other question, and I'll be quiet, sort of. I had spoken to Mike down at the restaurant, and I also took the town manager down to take a look at Shannecossett, our Indian friend on the floor. And I don't know if he's had an opportunity to talk with you, but I feel it needs to be protected. It's really, really being damaged. And I think we've got to come up with some way to make it so that people aren't walking on it anymore. You know what I'm referring to?
I do.
One by the window.
Yes.
That's what you referred to.
Yeah, so the town manager did send Greg Hanover, the Public Works Director, and myself an email last week. And I've got a meeting with Greg Monday, and that's on the list to talk about what we can do. So this is, it's 2x2 maybe, something like that. 2x2, it's on the floor in Par 4.
Yeah,
And it's not protected. It's actually, I think, sunken down just a little bit. It's kind of just below the floor level. And people have been walking across it, and it's fading and deteriorating to the point where you can't, it's getting more and more difficult to distinguish that it's the Shannecossett, the bust, if you will. And so he's asked us for suggestions on how we might preserve that. We can't really, it becomes a trip hazard if you put some kind of a frame around it. So
Can it be taken out? It
uh,
looks like it might be in the foundation.
oh,
I'm not sure.
yeah,
Kind of, yeah, it looks like it might have been made out of some kind of stone. Try to remove it.
Yeah.
Probably crack.
yeah. So I had suggested, you see this on pieces of wood furniture, like tables sometimes. They'll pour in this clear acrylic.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so you can pour that up to ground, up to the floor level. It's no longer, or it doesn't create a trip hazard. Problem is, you know, if you've got gravel on your shoes and you walk across that, it's going to get scraped, and it will get to a point where you wouldn't really be able to see it clearly. So that was my one thought to the town manager. But I haven't talked to the Public Works Director, and I have a meeting with him one day. That's one of the things we're going to talk about, is what we can do.
Does it need to remain on the ground? Or can it be,
Probably not, but you know, I don't know how easy it is to remove it.
Yeah, I think what Jim was saying, if
Yeah.
you try to excavate it, you could end up cracking, it could crumble. Because I'm not sure how long it's been there. I would imagine it's been there probably as long as that clubhouse has been there.
Yeah, I think so.
And I don't know why it was never protected.
You know, sometimes if you look in a museum, they'll have something like that on the floor, and they actually have it, it's four walls of glass or plexiglass or whatever, but it comes up like, probably like 3 feet. So you see it, you don't fall over it, but it protects what's in the middle of it. Just a thought.
Or putting a walkway around it.
It's not enough room.
Really? Okay.
No, you really gotta just protect that. Probably it's 12 by 12, maybe a little bit bigger than that on the floor. But it's right in the pathway.
There be merit in consulting with one of the local museums or maybe a couple for ideas about how to preserve it, make it
Yeah,
more integrated.
yeah. I mean, the other thing you could potentially do is build a frame and then just put plexiglass on. And when that plexiglass gets all scratched up, just replace it rather than kind of filling it with that acrylic, that clear acrylic, is moving that.
That would destroy it.
Yeah, that would destroy it. So yeah, you build the frame up just so that you put the plexiglass on, it's smooth surface.
Well, I appreciate the fact that it's being worked on. Thank you very much.
Before we leave this topic, Jim, you
The
started
sticker
to say
report?
something. What?
Yes,
Is that it? Yeah, the playground report.
yes.
It's a year old now, guys.
We do it every 2 years. In the interim, we inspect a third of the playgrounds every month. So every 3 months, all the playgrounds have been inspected. And we continue, but we don't have on staff a certified playground inspector. So we did it one time, but the decision was made by the town. They, I think, wanted to push the liability further away from a town employee. So if a town employee said, yes, you know, this playground's safe, then somebody gets hurt, they would rather have the insurance company making those decisions.
Right.
So I think it's kind of like an arm's
Yeah,
length
yeah, yeah.
away.
But
Further
this
away.
consultant is saying, well, maybe you should fix broken items.
Yes.
Your local staff, because they're not qualified, blah, blah, blah. It sounds like you want somebody that represents actors to fix it. It seems very expensive.
Yeah, generally, we will buy the replacement part, the
Yeah.
identical part, and then we'll just switch the part
Yeah.
out. And there are
Public Works does that, or?
parts that's,
Yeah.
yeah, so we, and almost all of the issues that were identified in the 22 report have been addressed, with the exception of, there's a couple of playgrounds in Gloucester that we're just not going to invest the money in that it takes to make those repairs. We would not believe how expensive. So just to give you an example, there is a swing that's designed for kids with special needs. And there's an additional nylon strap, 18 inches long, that kind of has a little bit of extra security. $100 for an 18-inch, inch and a quarter wide strap. $1,200 for this little plastic. I mean, it's like printers. You know, you buy a printer for $39 and then you pay $160 for the toner, right? It's the same kind of thing. Oh yeah, we'll give you the playground and then you're gonna take it when it comes to replace the parts.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we're ready to move on to your report.
In addition to the printed report, I did have a couple of other updates. This past Monday and Tuesday, Shinnecock had hosted the Connecticut Senior Open. We had players from 13 different states compete as far away as California. There was a wait list of 50 people get into the tournament. And it was, despite the rain, 2-hour rain delay on Monday morning, the rest of the tournament went off flawlessly. And one of the, so there's a couple of benefits. Well, there's a number of benefits. There's 2 great articles in the paper prior to the event, and then Monday, the day after the first day of the tournament, we see an increase in play prior to, because players know that the greens are being cut 3 times a day. There's a heightened
Ideal.
maintenance level, and they know that they're playing on a premier conditions. And we see that just after the tournament too. And it's also a great opportunity for players that perhaps wouldn't play at Shinnecock to get a chance to play there. And then they're like, hey, I want to go back. And the Connecticut PGA, I think this is our 26th year in a row hosting it. They really like the relationship that we've built, and players love the course. So anyway, so that was a big week out at the golf course. A couple of staff updates. It's kind of one step forward and one step back. So we had hired a financial assistant about 5 weeks ago, and she stayed for 3 weeks and then gave her notice over the weekend that she wasn't coming back to work. So, and this is after not having a financial assistant since April. So it's been a few months. So we are now working with the other financial assistants in other departments. They're working overtime to help keep things flowing. This time of year, we just ended one fiscal year and are starting another fiscal year. And so there's a lot going on, and we just didn't have the capacity or the knowledge to be able to take on those responsibilities of a financial assistant. I played around with it some. We tried to split it up as best we can, but moving forward, we're going to be using other financial assistants until we get another full-time person. On a more brighter note, we've just hired a program supervisor to replace Ben Morse, who moved up from a program supervisor position to manager of recreation services. And we extended an offer yesterday to replace our community outreach coordinator, and they have accepted the position and will be starting by the end of the month. So we're starting to fill in some of the gaps that we had over the last 4 or 5 months.
Mark, can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Well, one, what's the time frame that you would be looking at to get a posting together and perhaps prepare to hire the financial assistant again now that this person has left?
We will probably repost probably next week. And then the whole process takes generally 6 to 8 weeks.
Did the person give, was it just like a bad fit? Did the person give a reason? I'm just curious. If you can't share it, just say, I can't say, but I'm curious if it was related to just unhappiness with the job, or what was the?
No, it wasn't really clear. I'd like to say that it's the director, he's a jerk, and she just didn't want to work for him. But
No, I mean, like, was the job not like, was it related to the job description or something? Is there something that we can look at in the posting that might prevent something like that happening?
we reached out to her on 3 different occasions, and got no response back. Because that's one of the questions, that I wanted to find out, and the HR director also reached out and they did not respond. The only reason they gave was, and this is just kind of a fallback that everybody uses, it was for family, it was better for the family. And that's how it was left.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yep. So that's, in addition to the printed report, that's really all that I.
Were there any questions about Mark's report? Fran, Jim, Leanne?
I'm sorry, did you ask me something?
Or that you had an opportunity to get any questions about Mark's printed report, that you could get them answered.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up for some reason.
Your reports are always good. They were asking if you had any questions about Mark's report that he put out before. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, thank you. Yes, no, none at all. Thank you very
No.
much.
Mark puts together a good report. Thank you, Mark.
Good job there as translator, Fran. Okay, the golf course you talked about, and I
Yeah.
love the pictures on your report.
Yeah, so we just finished up a project. I think it was 17 different bunkers across a number of different holes. Also replacing some tee boxes. And the feedback has been really positive to the changes on the course. And we're having, that same company is coming back this fall to do some additional work that was approved in the budget.
Is that gonna be on the back nine?
No, I think it's the front nine. They're gonna continue to do.
The rest of the bunkers or something?
Yes, yeah. And the reason that we're focusing on the bunkers is every 2 years we do a golfer satisfaction survey. And we don't rate. We have the survey, one of the questions we ask is, what do you like about the course? How would you rate? And we give them this exhaustive list, and bunkers always scores the lowest. So those that fill out and we get a really good response to the survey. I think this year had close to 700 people answer the survey, which is a really good number. And most of the feedback that we get is that the bunkers need to be improved. And Eric pointed out recently, Eric Morrison is the golf course superintendent, that some of these bunkers are 125 years old that have never been upgraded. So what happens, and you can see in the pictures that were in the report, is you got a bunker that is now 5 or 6 feet high, and and what's happened is the face of the bunker has grown because the players were trying to get out of the bunker and they're spraying sand, and so they come in and they cut down the face of the bunker back to what it was probably 125 years ago. Oh, and I should mention that there's a great display in the library celebrating the fact that Shinnecock is 125 years old. There's some really great memorabilia that's in their display case, and I would encourage everybody on the commission to go over and take a look at some of the historic pictures, trophies. It's Eric and Jim Streeter, and there's another gentleman, and the staff at the library, did some great digging and found some really great stuff. And Eric, when he's not maintaining the golf course, he goes to flea markets and antique shows and looks for historic artifacts about Shinnecock Golf Course. So he's got like old postcards that show the old hotel before it was taken down, and he's found some really cool items. And it's a really
The Griswold?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really nice display. So I would encourage everybody to take a stroll over to the take a look.
So you said in last month's report that starting, I guess, in the summer, they were going to continue on the rest of the renovation project?
Yeah, so,
Except there's a problem with irrigation?
right, so what happened was the work that they did this spring took a little bit longer than what they had anticipated, and they were worried about hot, dry weather putting down
Yeah.
sod. So to protect the investment, they decided not to do the work that was budgeted for this fiscal year. Originally, the plan was, the guys are there, we're gonna do the money that was approved for the previous fiscal year and continue with the work that was approved for this fiscal year. But because that other work took so long, they were worried about, we put sod down, can't irrigate it, we're gonna lose it. So they're gonna wait until fall to come back and finish that. So,
Fortunately, June was humid and wet. And I
yeah,
noticed sun looks pretty good.
yes,
Didn't burn out.
right.
But is there a general irrigation problem at the course? I'm just wondering, because when I look at the 16 and 17 fairway, the ones that are bordering the river.
Yeah.
Have you seen those fairways? Like last summer, they got really destroyed in the drought.
Yeah.
Really dry last summer. I just wondered why Eric didn't irrigate 16 and 17, try to save those fairways. And actually, when you look at the play today, you look at 16 and 17 day, the Connecticut PGA, but the Connecticut Golf Association actually painted spray paint marks on the edges of the 16th and 17th fairways, so that if a player hit the fairway, they get a free drop.
Oh, gosh.
Because you're supposed to be on a lush,
Right.
in good shape fair if you hit the fairway. So
Right.
they got a break there.
Yeah.
So they saw that, and they also saw on 10, the approach to the 10th hole also has a really big area right in front of the green that did the same thing. I saw the guy come around and inspect it before the tournament. I was just wondering if Eric had an irrigation problem watering those, because they're at the point now where you can tell dirt has become so hard it wouldn't even take seed.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right,
You don't see that anywhere else in the course, but it really is.
right.
Really, 16 is the signature hole,
Right.
That's the one where the green is looking out into the Long Island Sound.
Right.
And the green is a beautiful green, but, up to the green, it just looks terrible.
Yeah.
And it ruined the hole.
I'm guessing one of two things. Either there's an irrigation problem or there just isn't irrigation.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Now, we do have a capital improvement plan for like three or 4 years out, to replace the irrigation system across.
Right.
Right. But that's well north of $1 million.
Yeah.
It could be 1.8 or
Pump
something.
house, equipment, all that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
stuff.
it's, I couldn't tell you how old the irrigation system is, but it's pretty old.
Yeah.
And it's, there's constant joints are breaking. It needs a full up. But I can't speak specifically to the.
Yeah, if you took a visit out there, you'd see it. Like, I don't think that, I played Winnipeg this week. Winnipeg has always had problems with dry conditions.
Yeah.
But, because June was so
Yeah,
humid, I was surprised
Me
how
too.
good a condition it was.
Yeah.
But Connecticut, those areas, they're too far gone.
Yeah,
They need to be
Yeah.
rehabbed. Yeah, it's like your own lawn, after a while it gets so bad, you can't
right.
even seed it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's some challenges there that
Yeah.
I think need to be addressed. Because if you look at the T sheet in Connecticut, they're full every day. I mean, there's 30,000 rounds, I think,
Yeah.
played there. There's no
Yeah.
course played at that level, you know? So you're not gonna get any more money, you know, beyond the $1.5 million that comes in the
Right.
course, unless you can charge higher fees.
Right.
And you can't charge higher fees unless the course is really at a higher level.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't see that on the front nine. Front nine doesn't seem to have the same
Yeah.
problem with dry conditions. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's happened. Some of the back is really
So, because I don't like, the area you're talking about, is that the area that was created after the deal with Pfizer?
yes,
Which makes me
yes.
wonder what the irrigation,
right. It might
because
be
it had to go
right.
across the
Yeah,
road.
yeah. Yeah, maybe it wasn't put in. I don't know, but the greens are in great shape.
Hmm.
So there must be irrigation.
Well,
in the
so
greens.
yeah, so if
So
there's
maybe it
irrigation
doesn't
there-
extend out to the fairways,
right.
but that is the hole that people look to when they play Shanticosset, is because it's really considered the prettiest hole in the state, really. It's the water view, yeah, really, really beautiful.
So, yes, the June report is in here. These numbers haven't been finalized, but it looks like we had another record year. Last year was our best year.
Yeah,
The year before that was our best year. The year before that was our best year. And this year was our best.
yeah. I mean,
It's just,
It's just unbelievable how popular golf has gotten overall.
yeah, I mean, we saw a spike during COVID
Right.
because Massachusetts, you couldn't play golf.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, you were a resident. If you were a resident, you could play, but no non-residents. Not sure about New York, but Connecticut stayed open, and so, you know, we saw a huge influx. And I honestly thought that after a couple of years after COVID, it would, you know, trend back down, but it's continuing to.
Yeah, a lot of young people playing.
Yeah, and that's actually, are you a member?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're aware that a couple of years ago, we created the,
Family teas?
well, no, not the family, we put in family teas,
Yeah, those little yellow ones.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can see those.
Yeah.
I don't think most people know what they are.
Well, we are trying to push.
Right, yeah,
the
yeah.
Younger kids,
Yeah.
the associate and the associate plus.
Right.
We introduced that. And that's had a huge impact. Prior to introducing that, I think we had 7 players between the age of 22 and 35,
Really?
and now we've got over 50.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other big change that we made is, it used to be a season's pass was from April 1st to the end of October or something. And now it's rolling, and we get people that are signing up in August.
Yeah.
To play,
It doesn't
and
really matter when you sign
it doesn't, yeah, and so those two things have really helped our season. Anyway. But I will check with Eric on
Yeah, it's a shame. I
Yeah.
played there today. I was, time I play there, I see that.
no updates on Trails Coordinating Task Force. Athletic fields. We're still putting together a request for qualifications. We're waiting for additional information from some of the youth sport organizations. We want to get the most recent needs so that when we put the RFQ out, whoever we bring on as a consultant knows what issues need to be addressed based on field needs of different organizations. So we're still waiting for some information. Agency accreditation. with all of the turnover in staff, I have not been able to focus on agency accreditation as much as I would like. And I'm hopeful now that we're starting to fill those positions that I can get back to try to move forward with agency accreditation. Thankfully, Elizabeth is back and has started cracking the whip and and is sending me emails. I need this, I need that. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Nice and quiet when she's. Yeah.
Before we leave the athletic fields on that list, I just wanted to comment on how much improved the community center field. I remember in the spring, I asked you, it's
Yeah.
looking tad sickly.
Yes,
It certainly is looking quite good.
yes, yeah.
So,
So Jim, one of the fields at the community center, which is the old Pitch Middle School.
Yeah.
We public works last fall. Yeah. Poured took all the topsoil off, regraded everything. Screened the topsoil, added in additional topsoil, and then, kind of leveled it all again, out again. Now we overseed it, because the field previously was like this.
They still play soccer on there?
Yes, and
And
lacrosse.
what else?
Yeah,
And lacrosse now?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's been closed since last fall. We reopened this fall.
Yeah.
And
That's a nice field.
it is now, yeah, it wasn't. And our hope is to ask the state for money to do work on the next field back. Out behind us.
Oh, yeah,
There's another
yeah,
multi-purpose field out there, and it's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's rolling,
right.
just not very good. So that's what it was referring to.
Right.
And they came in and they put more fertilizer. And we're actually planning to top dress it after the season. So we have a machine
okay.
that will lay down, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of topsoil. And we're gonna do that because you can see that there's some rocks that are starting to come up. Not big rocks, but like gravel-sized rocks. And so we need to kind of build that base up. But won't do it until after the fall.
Players have dug up more.
After the players have done it more. But it is irrigated now, which is the other.
Oh,
thing.
is it?
It was
Oh,
not
that's
irrigated
right,
before,
right,
so
right.
really, if you're gonna invest that kind of money, you really need to put irrigation. Because otherwise you're gonna, lose the
Yeah, it
field.
just burns out. Yeah, well, it's.
Parts of it.
Right, then that brings us up to the master plan update, I think.
Yes. 2 weeks ago? Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, Barry Dunn came in, those are the consultant that we brought in to update the department's Parks and Recreation master plan. The last time it was done was 2009. It really should be done every 8 to 10 years. 10 years is really kind of pushing it. So ours is clearly past that. 15. And what they've done is they did a statistically valid survey entire community, so they randomly selected certain number of residents. Surveys were sent out. They got enough surveys back that it's plus or minus like 5.2%. So it's 95 or just under 95% accurate. They did focus groups, stakeholder meetings. They've also brought a team out to do an inventory of all the parks, different conditions that they're in. And they came 2 weeks ago and kind of presented their findings. And gave the public an opportunity to provide some feedback. Unfortunately, we didn't get a great turnout. Elizabeth was there, Mike, who's not here tonight, attended. Andre, Representative Baumgartner, was there. There was a couple of other folks, Harry Hudson, who was the mayor and was on the council, was here, attended also. So they made that presentation on Wednesday night. We met with them Thursday morning. They met with the staff to kind of go over what they had heard from the public the night before. And then they put some draft recommendations together, which we're actually meeting tomorrow morning, as the staff is, to go over those recommendations, provide feedback to Barry Dunn, and then they're going to put together kind of a draft plan. And once we have that draft plan, it will get shared with the commission. And there'll be another public engagement so that people can kind of see the full-blown plan with goals and measurable objectives. So that's where we are with the master. Scheduled to be, I think the contract expires.
When does the town council get brought in?
Actually, they will get to see the same report. Barry Dunn doesn't want. Their process is to, the next step of the process is to produce a draft, finished, if you will, or a draft polished plan, and that will get presented to council. And then they'll take feedback and put that into the finished polished. Yeah.
Any questions for Ann, Jim, about the master plan?
Nope.
That brings us to this progress report on the 2022 strategic plan implementation, which is a requirement, actually, what the accrediting agency holds a standard, so that's
So just to give you a little background, there is a process which agencies go through to become accredited, and Groton Parks and Recreation is undertaking that process. We've been working on this for probably 3 years now. It's taken longer than what we thought. There's 154 standards that we have to meet, and we have to provide evidence of compliance with those standards. Now, there was a portion of those standards that we already had in place. There was a number of standards that we were not meeting, and so that's policies, procedures. A lot of it is documenting what we're doing. And so we're working through that process. Elizabeth, who in previous life was brought a couple of different hospitals through the accreditation process, is stepped up. How long have you been doing this?
Oh, 40 years.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I think I started working last August.
Okay,
it's almost
so
a
for
year.
almost
Oh, yeah.
a year, Elizabeth's
So you're
been
working
coming,
on it,
2 or 3 times a week in and helping us reformat what we had previously put together, putting together documents. Like she put together this entire 10-page document. Elizabeth said this is a fundamental. Every year we update our strategic plan, but this document kind of provides the details of what we've done towards that strategic. That's what this document is. This is evidence of the things that we say we're doing in our strategic plan that we're doing. And each one of these ties in, and our strategic plan is on our website under documents.
I did read that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
you know, it's kind of a glossy, it's got goals and some objectives and lots of pretty pictures. Well, this is kind of the.
Yeah, behind it, all the
Yeah.
evidence.
And I,
And a
Does
lot
this-
of it's got gleaned from the reports such as Mark provided us today. Going through his reports.
Oh, I see, yeah.
was
Yeah,
able to go there.
and does this require mission approval?
I
It
can
probably
bring
wouldn't
the-
hurt.
Pardon me?
It wouldn't hurt, right?
It wouldn't hurt. I think the thing to remember is a lot of this information has already been presented to the commission in the course of 2022. A few things have been added in.
Were there any questions about the document?
Yeah.
I heard you. I can make a motion to accept it. I mean, I reviewed it and like Elizabeth said, this is stuff that we have been talking about over the course of the past like year and a half, so it seems consistent with what's been shared with us before.
It's funny, I know. Okay, I'm gonna say that a motion was made by Fran.
You couldn't hear me?
Yes.
Oh.
Yep.
All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed, abstained,
Did somebody second it for the notes?
I did, yeah, I did.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Elizabeth, we have to put on the top of this document. How we usually do
this is a report as opposed to a standing policy or
Okay.
procedure.
it.
So I
Okay.
think what I'll do is just put the minutes into the Tower DMS.
Oh,
and then-
gotcha. Okay.
So our next meeting date will be in September because we take a break in August,
We won't be here.
and I won't be here for that meeting. I'll be somewhere on the Mississippi River. Yeah. Perfect. So do you know offhand, Mark, if that's gonna be in person or?
I think that's virtual, so what we started, I guess it was this year, one of the other commissioners. We had been having virtual meetings since pandemic. And he asked if we could have I think, 4 in-person meetings. And we're rotating around to different spots every like 3 months or so. So it doesn't quite work out that 11 times. So, but anyway, the next couple I think will be virtual, and then there'll be an in-person. Probably not here. He asked if we could do it at one of the sites where we hold summer camp, so I have to talk to the Board of Ed to see if we can do, if there's a meeting space, Mystic River Middle School, or Mystic River, I guess it's not.
No, it's a
No.
magnet school.
Magnets,
Yeah.
That's the old Cutler.
Yes, yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah.
I think that would be, so we've met here, we've met at Community Center, we met at Spicer House, and we'll meet at the school, and that will work in person. And then in December, the commission needs to decide if they want to continue to meeting Thursday nights, and you know, what the schedule.
All right, is there any further business? Then I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
I.
Aye. 8:29.
All right. And I will get out that facility inventory list. I'll send out the list that is currently in the rules and regulations, and I'll also send the updated list, the revised list from the conservation. But I probably won't do that until next week.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Enjoy your next few months.
Bye-bye.
Jim,
Glad to have you on board.
yeah, but be here. One of my favorite places in the town.
I wonder why.
Here at the senior center.
Ride 55.
I know, but
Yes. Man,
I'm gonna take that trip to that War Memorial trip.
oh, okay.
It looked interesting.
It is, I think there's a meeting and I think Cindy has it in September.
Okay.
I'm like mid-September.
I don't think I've seen that. So where is that down to, where is that road trip?
Oh, it starts in London. Starts in London,
London, Paris,
right,
Portsmouth,
yeah,
D-Day Museum, Channel Crossing.
yeah, you go from Portsmouth across the channel, the same